What you are seeing is the final countdown to Artfight 2023, the first art fight I've ever participated in. For those who don't know, I started using Artfight back in June 2022. However, for personal reasons, I didn't participate in the 2022 Artfight last year. However, this year was different. I was fully open to start participating in Artfight and see what the experience is. And let me tell you, it is an experience that I do not regret doing. 31 or I think 32 days of consistent art making where you aren't afraid to make other people's characters and you aren't afraid of having other people make your characters. And let me tell you, this was very eye-opening. It actually really helped me a lot. And although I made only 7 attacks this year, while only being attacked twice, I found it as a very big success. So today in this video, I wanted to share my overall experience using what I made in Artfight. Throughout the Artfight event, I did create time lapses for every artwork that I created, but I didn't add notes because I was so much into the grind that I wasn't focused on doing notes, but I would be able to show you the time lapses along with a little bit of commentary. And with that being said, let's get on with the attacks and my battle card. So the first thing I'd like to show is the creation of my battle card. Now, when the theme for the 2023 Artfight got released, and it was revealed to be vampires versus werewolves, literally the first thing I thought was Twilight. So yes, I literally used one of the posters for Twilight New Moon as a reference, including the poses, which I'm actually quite, which, you know, on the sketch level actually is probably one of my best sketches out there. And now, when it comes to replicating everything, I had to figure out 3 characters. So, fortunately, I was actually able to use the three characters I had to basically create the poster pose. So I have Mir Anthony basically as Edward, Aramis II as the Jacob pose, and then for the Bella pose at the back, it's just regular Anthony. I know. I kind of find it funny to do it as kind of a shit post. And it turns out that this was actually probably one of the funniest and probably a highly effort shit posts I've ever made. I don't know. I just kind of found it funny. I was like in full-blown Twilight mode. I literally was just getting into the mood, listening to nothing but Twilight soundtracks while working on this, you know. So it was really fun. And now what you're seeing is my first ever attack ever posted on Artfight. I was really confused on what I wanted to do first because there were so many ideas I had, but I found Sonafire's little dude character, and because it was closely resembles a Minecraft axolotl, I figured that was a really good starting point for me to get comfortable with Artfight and sketching other people's OCs. So what I did for Little Dude is to just be surfing a wave with handboarding, and I'll be honest with you, I was a little paranoid by trying to make it not look like a sandal. I tried to make it look like a handboard, but at the very end I decided to kind of admit that this was kind of a sandal. Also, that was literally the first critter OC I've actually ever created. Continuing on with all that, I decided to work on Tiff, which was probably my first and potentially only friendly fire for a while. I kind of found out that friendly fires do 20% of your total damage, which really doesn't fit well with me if I'm gonna, work on something high quality and have it not worth a lot of points. But anyway, Tiff really stood out to me as one of those kind of goth-like characters that actually would fit perfectly with this mirror concept I was thinking about for a couple months, where you usually see a mirror version of yourself showing, the half of yourself based on how much you show in public. So if you're very open book, you kind of resemble a very close version of yourself. And that's what I did with Tiff. Quickly jumping in was Cole Smith, and this was probably my first experience learning Portal. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really seen a lot of Portal, but I had to do a lot of research about it. But I had a basic idea, and after a little bit of research, I decided to make kind of like a portal room, kind of looking out into the portal or something. It was interesting, because normally Cole Smith was made as a sketch OC, so I had to kind of like fairly a lot of free reign to do what I want, as long as I stay within the design. And now we get to probably one of my favorite pieces of the entire art fight. Probably one of my favorite attacks of the year. This was basically when I was looking for more OCs to look into. I was like completely committed to this by now, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to, attack as much people as possible. And so I was looking through some of my original kind of my tags for the Anthony OC, and it turns out not a lot of people have used the wilderness tag for their OCs. But for the OCs that did use the wilderness tag, one of them was Everest McGullen. And I realized how kind of relatable character she is, and only found out through Rosie Draws Things that that our characters have a lot in common. So I decided to create a crossover with Anthony and Everest, even though we're in different storylines or universes, we decided to do a crossover, and I decided to go all out with this one. I literally inspired the mountains and overall scenery based on Bob Ross. I literally took a second to see what I could to look at Bob Ross paintings and seeing how I can kind of implement that in my style. And I think I did really well with this, especially with the water and kind of the overall fairly generic hill that exposes the mountains. I was tempted to put trees in there, but I figured out it clashed with the mountains really well, because that was also one of the main points of view to see. From there on, I created a pier and basically created the characters, which I'll be honest with you, would be the first time I've ever drawn a woman digitally or just in any art in general. I always have so much trouble. I always am scared drawing women. It's just something that's completely out of my comfort zone. But I decided to learn here, and it turned out very well. As you can see later on, how I was able to learn how to integrate women in my style. But yeah, this has to be probably one of my favorite pieces of all time. Highly effort, and I can tell for a fact that person who attacked Pink Lemonade or on DeviantArt is Rosie Draws Things really liked it, and liked it to basically create a revenge on me, which I also really liked. So yeah, if you're seeing this, I'm really glad you all liked it, and I hope to see, you know, more attacks with Anthony and Everest in the future. So after I created the Everest x Anthony attack, I honestly didn't know what to do. I felt like that I hit a peak, but I decided to keep going and try to find some other things that, you know, were kind of easy but also challenging enough to get me going. So I decided to continue on with the nature and go with Teresa Boonstock, which was really fun, which was really interesting because I had to do some research. I always like kind of themed OCs, especially in specific decades. Like in Teresa's case, was full-blown 90s kind of vibe, so I decided to go for some 90s type clothing. And this is where I was very scared, because this was way out of my comfort zone. Actually drawing a full-blown woman, with as much accurate proportions as possible. I think I did very well, but I am like, there's always a thought in my mind, like, oh, maybe I did this maybe I did a little too much. I gotta nerf it down a little bit. But I was able to kind of find a fairly appropriate kind of thing action. The piece itself actually is really nice. Going for a nighttime scene. I don't always do nighttime scenes, which, again, out of my comfort zone, so yeah. This was also another quick draw through a fairly old OC that didn't really get much attacks, but I kind of saw as kind of another fun way to challenge myself, kind of going off from the Everest St. Anthony attack that I made. This one had I think the first time I ever drawn a demon, and if you could see, I did a lot of heavy reference with the ref. I even had to start over a few times trying to see how I can get all the horns figured out, which I was able to do. And I think the way I did it, I actually thought it was a fairly good pun. And it turns out that the person that I attacked, basket case creature, really liked it and revenged literally with 12 hours left in the event. And it was crazy because I posted this on I think the 31st of July, and he literally returned me in 12 hours, which is crazy. Alright, and then my last attack, I decided to literally do an AU attack with 4 different OCs, especially with Amogus. This is actually I think this is only the second time I've actually made something regarding Amogus, but this one was really different because there was a lot more anthropomorphic characters, something that I'm very much not comfortable to, but I think this was really difficult. It was fun to make, but it was also very difficult and not only time consuming, but by then it was just, I was nearing complete burnout. And by then I think I may have pushed myself a little too much, it took a lot longer than I anticipated, especially when I was making the human. Because I had to make an anthropomorphic fish, elf kind of crossover, and deer tree kind of crossover. And by then I was just heavily referring to the refs as much as I can. Near the end of the event, at this point, I was just trying to get it done. I mean, it was fun to see my style, become vernacular, but by then I was just really crushed for time, and at that point I was just trying to get it done before the end of the event. It looks nice. There were a few things I wish I did improve on beforehand, but I think overall, I would say it's fairly acceptable. Now, as you may have already known, I was a little reluctant to join Artfight, mainly because it really conflicted with personal matters, and even though I joined in 2022, I still wasn't really up and fully understanding what Artfight is, what Artfight means. So when 2023 came around, something different happened. I wanted to try it out and see what happened. And let me tell you that I do not regret joining this. This actually finally gave me the things that I've always wanted to do, always wanted to dream drawing and learn drawing. but didn't really have time to do so because of college or the fact that I have limited time over the summer or during the breaks. But this was just a perfect blessing to basically go wild and help me kind of get a standpoint of where all the art is. Like, as you've seen, my art progressed a lot throughout the month because I've been doing it for so much, and it really helped me think differently with doing art. I still do it for fun, and it really puts you in a perspective, like how long it takes for you to make art. Because some people like nail it out in a few hours. Well, mine's like stretch on for days. Then again, I'm working on multiple at once. So it ultimately gets you to think about how other people do art, and you really come to appreciate the fact that, you know, art is it's really just human expression. It's a really good medium of human expression, something that is really impossible to replace. You can have artificially generated art, but it's the overall expression you put into it, the amount of effort you put into it, the pride you have with making something that makes something human. And I think that's what the whole spirit of Artfight is. And having my first Artfight, it was amazing. Now, even though I was on the Vampires team, and how the Vampires were pretty much being stomped on for throughout the month, I honestly don't mind if we end up coming short or not, because at the end of the day, this was a really fun experience for me, and it's something that I will look forward to in the years to come. So that really is it. I'd like to thank you all so much for having you stay this long and kind of hearing the commentary of how I was thinking these 7 attacks, and I hope to see you all soon and potentially attack you all soon next year.